Welcome to a Warriors edition of the Bay Area Beat. On today's episode, I'm joined by my college buddy, Austin. We start by going down memory lane, sharing our incredible story of how we made it to Game 6 of the 2022 NBA Finals in Boston. We then get into Steph's injury and how it may actually be a blessing in disguise. We'll also discuss how Jimmy Butler has perfected the Andre Iguodola role and close, making our case for why Draymond Green deserves to be the Defensive Player of the Year. I do want to give everyone a heads up that at some point during the episode, my audio and video went out of sync. It still sounds crisp, but if you do happen to notice my lips and the audio not matching up, that's why. But enough about the technical difficulties. Here we go. What's up, Austin? Welcome to the Bay Area Beat.
Thanks for having me on, Garrett. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. You're welcome anytime. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we've seen each other since Game 6 of the NBA Finals in 22 in Boston.
Yeah, it hasn't been since then. I remember you messaged me because you're in New York and I was living in Boston at the time. And then you're like, oh, we should maybe try to hit Game 6 and see what we can do. And I was like, oh, the price is kind of steep. Like, hopefully they go down. And then you saw the prices go down a little bit and you end up copping those tickets. And I was like, all right, fuck it, let's go.
We were a year out of college at the time, and I don't know about you, I was pretty broke. I was in grad school. I was working at an internship, so I didn't even have like salary money. And yeah, got on a bus that morning of Game 6 from New York without tickets. I was searching for 72 hours on TickPick, SeatGeek, no free ads, but pretty much every ticket site out there. Yeah, luckily found a pair in the top row of the upper deck. It was like I was in Hartford on my bus ride. I sent you the screenshot of the tickets, and from there on, we made it happen. I think I was even so broke at the time that I had to get on a payment plan. It was awesome, and I remember the anticipation, the excitement going into that afternoon. We pre-gamed at your place, had a couple beers. We're watching like top 10 greatest Warrior playoff games of all time and just hyping ourselves up to an oblivion, which was incredible. I remember getting to TD Garden, place was rocking. There was green everywhere. You know, there were certainly some inflammatory comments thrown our way as you would expect with it being Boston. Started out a little rocky. They were down 13-2. Celtics went on a really hot run to begin the game, and the place really felt like it wanted to erupt. But Warriors were able to handle business, slow the game down. JP3 and Steph hit some big threes. They went on a 21-0 run, and the rest of the game, they never looked back. We got to see Steph have his third quarter ring me, which was pretty awesome. And I remember we had like the only other Warrior fan in our entire section was sitting right in front of us. So we kind of formed this like 3-person unison group of Warrior fans amongst a sea of green, which was pretty epic. We saw them drown out the clock, end the game. We sprinted down to the lower bowl. We're like row 1 for the ceremony. Got to see Steph get his first finals MVP. I remember seeing Dave Portnoy sadly walking out of the arena. We were calling every friend and family member that would pick up a FaceTime. And it was awesome, man. I mean, I don't know about you, that's one of the greatest nights of my life, hands down.
Oh, 100%. Most I remember about that game was, like you said, Warriors were down 13-2 in the first quarter. And I was like, oh, it's not looking great. And then that 21-0 run, I'll never forget. It wasn't just one guy, too. It was the entire team, the entire rotation, just making shots here and there. And I remember Steph with the night-night, of course. Like, that's pretty unforgettable. We're going crazy in the back. Everyone's getting annoyed by us who are Celtics fans. But remember us immediately after the game ended, we went down. We're first deck to watch the celebration, too. And that was just such a cool sight to see, just being so close, seeing the Warriors win it all. And also, we saw Jock Peterson walking up too. That was pretty funny. It was just totally random, just walked right past us. And I remember after the game, when we eventually got back to my place, we threw on the like celebration on YouTube and how that all went down. I remember seeing the 2 yellow shirts. This was the shirt I wore to the game, and just showed our backs, and we're just like, I was going crazy when we were watching that celebration. Such a cool moment. I mean, definitely never forget it.
Yeah, man. Definitely one of, if not my favorite sports memory of all time. I think it is number one, and I have some pretty I'm fortunate to have some pretty awesome ones. We'll get into a Giants one later on in the episode. It's a memory that I'll never get back. You'll never get back. The cherry on top was just being as broke as we were and being in no means to spend $450 on a top of the bowl tickets, but we made it happen, and we were rewarded with an incredible, I think Steph had 34 in the game, saw his one and only finals MVP, and it was a special night for sure.
100%. It's something I'll never forget. When we bought those tickets, I'm like, okay, we're going, like, just hope they win, obviously. That's something you got to pull the trigger on when we were thinking back in that moment too. If we didn't purchase those tickets and we were in Boston, like at a bar, it just would not hit the same. Just being there was it was once in a lifetime. I mean, absolutely incredible. I don't know how many more moments we'll get the chance to go to a game like that in that situation in the finals or whatever it is. I mean, I'll never forget it for sure.
I wouldn't have been able to fully enjoy the entire game if we made it our way to Boston, didn't end up going to the game, and we're watching it at some sort of bar, because I think the unknown and the what if has just been eating me alive for probably the rest of my life. So glad we made that game. Let's hop into 2025 version of the Warriors, and hopefully we'll be in a couple months talking, reliving that memory as a distant finals and another Steph. In the last couple days, Warriors have played a couple lackluster games against the Raptors. They had a great comeback. Unfortunately, Steph did get injured, had a pelvic contusion where he missed the rest of the game. Warriors had an awesome 7-point comeback from when they were down at the time. He did end up missing their game in Atlanta a couple nights ago where they just came out sloppy. They gave up 40 points in the first quarter, and it was really kind of hard for them to overcome that. They did win the next, I think, 3 quarters, but they just kind of put themselves in a hole that they weren't able to get out of. And now Steph, surprisingly, may actually come back for this Tuesday game against the Heat. That kind of shocked me with how hard he fell and how loud it sounded on TV. But while we don't know whether he's going to play or not, do you think that this could be some sort of blessing in disguise if he is injured and has to miss a couple games?
I think it is. I just go back to the 2022 year where he missed a handful of games in the middle of that run. It's good for him to have a little bit of a break, because although he's like best conditioned athlete probably on the court every single time he's playing, like he needs a little bit of rest. It's important for him to get a little time off. I'm surprised that he might be coming back so soon. I mean, I wouldn't mind him sitting maybe a game or two more or something like that, but it could be a good thing. It could help build team camaraderie. I'm not sure if we'll talk about Kuminga later, but hopefully that can help him. Steve Kerr's trying to handle the rotations further, but I hope that team can gel more, and Jimmy knows what he needs to do as well in that time frame. So hopefully the Warriors can hold their own however long Steph is out, and hopefully everyone can stay composed, stay healthy. That's extremely important.
I think that's what was so frustrating about them losing on Saturday, was that was a game they should have won. Even without Steph, like the Hawks are under 500. They don't really have a secondary scorer outside of Trae Young, with Jalen Johnson being injured. And that's a game where I think shows Steve Kerr that they might not be able to win these next couple games against cupcakes opponents, against the Heat, against the Spurs without him. And I think in a perfect world, they would have been able to win, take care of business, give him the next couple nights to not only recover, but like you said, actually allow the other guys in the rotation, particularly Kuminga, who has struggled to, I don't want to say struggle to find his footing, but has certainly had his moments, and at the same time has kind of been the odd man out in a lot of these rotations and a lot of these games the last couple of days. And, they were so good without him that it's kind of hard to break up a good thing. And we saw with Steph in 2022, he was injured going into the playoffs. He came off the bench, I think, the first couple of games against Denver, and that was huge for him. They ended up having to play a 2.5-month sprint against 4 different opponents, and being able to come into that marathon fully rested and fully recovered should be the main priority regardless. But I think if the Warriors are able to extend him and let him kind of recover on his own and just regroup and refresh a little bit the next couple games, that would be the best for all parties involved. And it's not like it's an injury that he's most likely to re-injure. It's a bone bruise. It's pretty simple. We have a huge stretch this next week with the Grizzlies, Lakers, Nuggets, and Rockets. The 4 teams, 4 out of the 5 teams ahead of us in the standings. We're playing them back to back to back to back. And that's really where I think the Warriors need to prioritize their focus and their energy. And I think a perfect scenario is they're able to either rest him or play him limited minutes the next couple of games. And he's able to play that next stretch of games next week. And he's ultimately able to end the season a lot more recovered and re-energized for this hopefully 2-month playoff run.
No, exactly. The limited minutes with him coming back will be huge. I don't want to see Steph playing 35 minutes a game right when he comes back. And Steve Kerr knows that. He's seen Steph be injured, and the team knows that as well. It's important for them to, most importantly, gel on their own when he gets back. The biggest thing for me is still Kuminga. I hope he somehow gets into the rotation. He's so talented. He can just drive by everyone and post up, score on his own. But Jimmy might have to take a little bit more of the reign. He's just kind of letting the Warriors, the rest of the team, do their thing, and he's kind of just doing his best to fit in, which he's doing an exceptional job. Another thing I want to touch on too is I wish I saw Gui Santos play more minutes in the Hawks game. It's hard for me to see him like out of the rotation so much. It seems like he's brought a little bit like energy along with Jimmy. I saw a stat on Twitter, a guy named Jim Park. He was showing the ratings when Gui Santos was on the floor, and he was like +6 with like everyone on the team, with one of the highest being like Bram Pajemski. But the one player that when he was on the floor with, when he was in the negatives, was Jonathan Kuminga. He was -10, him and Kuminga on the floor together. And that's something that, again, Steve Kerr is going to have to figure out how to gel those guys together.
Yeah, you need to surround Kuminga with other shooters, and without Steph being out there, that makes things obviously incrementally more difficult, but he is a guy that gets the majority of his work in the paint, from the free throw line, similar to Jimmy Butler too. Those two guys have similar games. Obviously, Jimmy is far more polished and a far better facilitator, but those two guys I don't really see playing much overlap because of how similar their games are. If you want to get the best of Jimmy Butler, if you want to get the best of Jonathan Kuminga, it's surrounding them with guys that are able to shoot if they draw two inside and kick out, and like the Moses Moody's of the world. And I don't really see Kuminga and even Butler kind of meshing well. I know Butler too kind of chewed out Key on a defensive rotation against the Raptors, and we haven't seen him since. So I don't know how much that takes into play. One thing I want to go back to is you were saying that you think Jimmy might need to take on a bigger role, and I agree there. I also think he's just kind of saving it in a way for the playoffs, and maybe that's too naive thinking. But one, we've seen playoff Jimmy come out, and he's a completely different player. And two, he's still meshing with this team and still trying to find his groove. And it's been now probably 20 games, but there's a lot that goes into the makeup of a good basketball team. And a lot of it is finding guys that really gel well together. And he even had a quote a few weeks back. He said, talking about kind of gearing it up and getting ready towards the playoffs, he said, when it's my time, you'll know when it's my time. Until then, I'm going to pass the ball to the open man, get my guys some jumpers, get them out in transition, and we're going to keep winning. And I think that's kind of says it perfectly. He is willing to do whatever is needed to win. And I think in the playoffs, his usage rate's certainly going to need to be higher. But when they're playing a bunch of lottery teams this next week, I still think he wants to kind of get his guys involved and get guys like Kuminga going. And I think that's kind of the best case scenario for this Warriors team.
I would like to see him play Jimmy basketball. Throw a hint out there here and there, just try to go to the basket and score. He's great at facilitating. Like the way Draymond will sometimes get the ball in the post, and there's like an off-ball screen for like Steph or Buddy Hield. I love him in that role, throwing that out to Buddy Hield for a three. Hopefully it gets Buddy going. But I like to see him be more aggressive. We'll know more when they play some bigger teams and potential playoff teams. They'll meet in the first or second round in a couple weeks.
They have a gauntlet next week against those four teams ahead of them. I'm not saying I don't want him to be more aggressive, but I understand where he's coming from in terms of not wanting to break up a good thing that's happening with this Warriors team. An observation I've found from him is that he's perfecting the Andre Iguodala role, and even has a better offensive impact than Iggy did, even at his prime. He certainly has like a unique play style, as he's not only a great facilitator, but he's, like we said, getting most of his work from the paint, from the free throw line, giving the Warriors kind of a multi-dimensional look, because oftentimes we'd see them as a jump shooting team and kind of rely on that, get stagnant shooting threes. And I think his ability to break that up, go inside, is really going to be huge for this team if they want to kind of show all the layers that they have. And then on defense too, it's like, that's the thing that shocked me the most, is I knew he was a good defender. I didn't realize how impactful of a defender he would be. And he's just incredibly smart at calling out assignments. He's never really missing a rotation. He plays excellent help defense. What the Warriors still still lack is a great point of attack defender. And we can get into that more later. But what he brings as just kind of this Swiss Army knife has been so huge for them. And they're going to need that to last 4 playoff rounds if that's kind of the perfect scenario.
No, that's a perfect comparison to Iggy. I completely agree with that. Like, he's so mature and so poised, and like, he has that ability to like settle the team down, say if another team goes on a run or whatever, slow it down himself, and he can create offense for the team as well. Jimmy's had so much experience. He's 35 years old. I mean, he's been on so many different teams. He's seen so much basketball. He knows what's working, what's not.
Do you think the Warriors would have been this good if they would have traded for Kevin Durant instead of Butler, assuming that I know the packages wouldn't have been the same because Kuminga would have definitely been in that trade. Excluding that, like just player for player, what do you think? Are they just as hot? Are they 17-3 with Durant like they are with Jimmy Butler?
I think Jimmy fits a little better at this particular moment in time for the Warriors. He's been taking on a leadership role. He's befriending Draymond and Steph, and he relates to them extremely well. And I feel like he relates to the young guys too, just has fun with them. I don't think Kevin would have done that as well. And plus, if you got Kevin Durant, you may have to give it Kuminga, Moody, Pajemski, someone, and a few more picks. But I really like where the Warriors are at in terms of that. I think Jimmy was a perfect pickup. When it happened, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. But now my whole view on the Warriors just took a 180 turn. So it's looking good so far.
And they've, as a team, have completely 180. I mean, they were going nowhere fast. That was excruciating to watch them 3 nights a week when they were blowing leads as regular as it gets. And I've spoke about this on the pod, but I wanted Kevin Durant originally. That was the very first episode of this podcast, was the trade deadline. And I thought he was the only one that gave them a ceiling as contenders in the West. But in reality, what I've seen is that the Suns have been at least an absolute disaster. They're an incredibly talented team. They have 2 guys who started for Team USA, but they don't have any interest in playing defense. I don't want to say Durant's a coach killer, but he kind of has been the last couple of years. And we saw that in Brooklyn with Steve Nash. We saw that last year with Vogel, probably going to happen with Budenholzer. And, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I don't think it is. He's been involved in a lot of drama these last couple of years, and it might just follow him. And Butler has filled all their holes as free throw shooting, offensive facilitating, elevating the players around him. And I don't think as incredible of it as an offensive talent Kevin Durant is, I don't know if there'll ever be a Slim Reaper like him. I don't think he would have been able to fit with this team in terms of what they lacked pre-trade deadline the way Jimmy Butler has.
It's interesting too, when he came to the Warriors in 17, like his whole thing was he just wanted to play beautiful basketball and just played more team basketball, because him in OKC, it was basically him and Russell Westbrook just switching off, doing one-on-one, kicking out here and there. But it was just those 2 guys creating the offense. And with the Warriors in 17, I feel like he was so happy to be involved in like a team-oriented environment. Those years were some of the most beautiful basketball ever, I would say.
Oh, without a doubt.
If he were to come back this late, I don't think he would have that same joy, like coming back to the Warriors. And he said that too. He didn't want to come back, like mid-season especially. Jimmy was the better fit for this squad in this particular moment in time. But I would have definitely enjoyed seeing Kevin Durant on the team.
I like calling him Kevin on a first name basis. That's a new one for me. I like it though. One other player kind of I want to talk about before talking about the playoff race is Draymond Green and his defense, and really not only how unbelievable a defender he's been, especially these last couple of weeks, but some of his odds. He's right now the betting favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year at plus 100, which is, for you non-bettors out there, 50% implied probability. He was at less than 1% 3 weeks ago and went from 10 to 50%, which is where he's at now over the last week. I think the signature performance there was locking up Giannis in the Dubs win without Steph against Milwaukee. I think he held Giannis to 0 for 7 from the field. He would be the oldest player in NBA history to get a Defensive Player of the Year. The late great rest in peace to Dikembe Mutombo was 34 when he won DPOY. So I guess my question to you is, do you think he has a genuine case to be the Defensive Player of the Year?
100%. I mean, every single night on the floor, you just see like he is the Steph Curry of the defense. He plays that quarterback role so well on the defensive side. And the thing is, too, like him and Mobley are the co-favorites right now. I last checked the odds this morning. So Draymond was at like minus 110. Mobley's like around the same, maybe a little bit lower. Mobley's damn good defender, obviously. He's very similar to Draymond in terms of guarding that 1 through 5 and guard at any position. He's quick, he's long, he's lengthy. But with Draymond, there's no like Jared Allen behind him protecting the rim as well. And Draymond is kind of like an embodiment of what everyone aspires to be as a defender in this particular day and age. He has a 7'1" wingspan. He's guarding the point guard. He's blocking shots here and there. Another underrated thing I would say, and he's done this throughout his whole career, is this incredible help defense. He knows his opponent's strengths and weaknesses so well. He's the smartest guy on the defensive end every single night. He held Giannis to 5 field goals, which doesn't happen. Yes, he gets to the line a lot. That's where you want to see Giannis at the line, most likely.
And he's not very good from the line either.
Yeah, he's shooting his career worst free throw percentage this year. It's under 60%. But just watching that game especially, that was the best defensive performance I've seen this year from not only Draymond, but for any player
from anyone
in the league. Yeah, exactly. But like he's done that for so long, and it's absolutely incredible seeing him do it at this age as well. So
it is incredible at 35 to be doing it. And everyone else on that list, like you said, Evan Mobley, Dyson Daniels, Jaren Jackson, these are all guys who are 25, 26 and below. So to be in year, I want to say, 13 of his career and still doing the things that Draymond's doing is pretty remarkable. Obviously, no one locks up or completely shuts down Giannis, but like you said, what you have to do is force him to the free throw line, force him to take tough shots inside. He wasn't even really that aggressive in the fourth quarter because I think he was just exhausted from Draymond being on him all night long and really just not letting up, which is awesome. And yeah, the last 2 points of data I want to just add to Draymond's Defensive Player of the Year cases. He's right now, opponents are shooting 42.5% from the field against him. That's the best in the NBA for anyone who defends 14 shots a game. And him and Jimmy have the best defensive rating by any duo since the All-Star break, which is just more evidence to what we've been talking about is how unbelievable of a duo they've been defensively. And then on offense, how great of a duo Steph and Jimmy have been able to be, both facilitating and also having in and out scoring, with Steph getting the majority of his work from the 3-point line and Butler kind of going inside. And honestly, I think Draymond too just deserves it, not only in terms of how well he's played, but like he got robbed at least once, if not twice, in the early dynasty days. Kawhi Leonard won it, getting less first place votes than him, if you remember that. And you know, this was back in the days when Draymond would kick guys in the balls every so often. So I'm sure there was some frustration from voters, but he has won Defensive Player of the Year in his career, and he's the best defensive player of our lifetime. That doesn't add up.
He's the best I've ever seen on defending a fast break when it's like 2-on-1 where he's just backpedaling. He just talks the talk and he walks the walk. His odds rose after the Bucks game, not only because he guarded Giannis, like held him to only 5 field goals during that game, but he's like, 1000% I should be the decoy. That's his personality, and that's what Warriors fans in particular love so much about him. There's sometimes that love-hate relationship where he gets like a tech or does something stupid, kicks someone in the balls, or throws a tantrum, hits Yusuf Nurkic in the face, whatever.
Punches Jordan Poole in the face, chokes out Rudy Gobert. We could go on.
Yeah, it's hilarious when he does that. Like, sometimes can hurt the team, but it's kind of his energy that just ignites the whole team. But I agree. He should be the decoy in my eyes.
He's the guy that, you know, if he's on your team, you absolutely love him. You're playing against him, he's your least favorite player in the NBA. And I have plenty of friends who are not Warrior fans who will say the exact same thing. They cannot stand the guy. And Draymond has a spot at my table any day of the week. Frustration certainly mounted last couple of years and hit its peak, I think, last year when he had that 15-game suspension. But now that he's back, focused, I hope is not going to be making boneheaded plays come playoffs like that, and has plenty of technical fouls to work with. Hopefully we're not seeing that side of Draymond. So right now the Warriors are, as we're taping this on Monday the 24th, a couple hours before the Wolves tip off. They're the 6th seed. They're a half game up on the Wolves. They're a game up on the Clippers. If the Wolves do win in Indianapolis tonight, both them and the Wolves will be tied for the 6th seed. Luckily, the Warriors do have the tiebreaker against the Wolves. They're up 3-1 on that series. So if they do finish with the same record at the end of the season, the Warriors would be ahead of them in the standings. Unfortunately, the Clippers, who are a full game back of the Warriors, but the Clippers have the tiebreaker there. We're 0-3 against the Clippers this season. Luckily, we do have one last game against him, which is the last game of the season. I believe it's Sunday, April 13th, and that game's going to be huge. The Warriors need to be at least 2 games ahead of the Clippers heading into that game in order to kind of play for nothing. If they're a game up, it's as if they're tied, because the Clippers, if they win that game and they finish tied, would have the tiebreaker. Do the Wolves scare you the most out of those 2 teams?
I think they do. I can see Draymond handling Julius Randle on the post well, but Anthony Edwards, he can go off at any time. You saw him in the playoffs last year. Just the most important moments, like he would go out and get 30 plus. Like I love watching him play too. Just his competitiveness. He does have that, like everyone says it, but he has like that little shade of MJ where like nothing really scares him whatsoever. I think they would scare me the most. I feel like in particular, Clippers might be a little bit old. I know Ty Lue is an incredible coach, but the Wolves had that playoff experience last year.
The only thing I kind of disagree there, and I've had this argument with lots of people, is like, are we sure Ty Lue is like as amazing as a coach as everyone says he is? Like, you hear that all the time. Oh, he is a top 3 coach in this league. And yeah, he took over for David Blatt in 2016 and had LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love on his team, and he won an NBA Finals. Like, that's amazing. Since then, he's been on underwhelming Clippers teams. He hasn't gone past the second round with any of those teams. I don't think I'm as big of a Ty Lue fan as the national media, but yeah, that's just me, maybe.
I don't know. I disagree with you. I still think he's a top 3 coach in the league. It's hard because they've had so many injuries. Like Kawhi's had such bad injury luck through the last however many years. Paul George carried them to a Western Conference Finals against the Suns, where Terrence Mann was their second best player on the team.
Right.
And Paul George doesn't exactly have the best playoff reputation. But I remember too in 18-19 as well, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell went absolutely crazy. I think Ty Lue has still done more with less. Maybe Blatt was just not a good coach whatsoever for that LeBron team. But I think Ty Lue is a top coach in this league, and I think any team would be lucky to have him if somehow he were to leave.
Fair enough. Well, agree to disagree there, but this was awesome, Austin. We're certainly going to do this again. I got to run, but let's have you on come Dubs playoffs, come early season preview for the Giants. Let's make this happen.
100%. Thank you so much for having me on. I had such a great time talking with you, and just linking up with you again. Excited to talk ball for these next few months in particular, heading into the playoffs.
Let's do it, man. Go Dubs. Go Giants. Happy opening day. I hope your bracket's still semi-intact, unlike mine. And we'll talk soon.
Will do, Garrett. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, man. Take care. All right. Now, if you made it to the end of the episode, I want to say thank you. If you don't mind subscribing and maybe even dropping a like, you'll become my new best friend. I produce these Bay Area sports podcasts twice a week, and I'm looking to grow my audience as much as I can. You can find the audio version of the podcast on Spotify or Apple Pods at the Bay Area Beat, and on YouTube at Bay Area Beat. You can also find short clips on all socials under the same name. Thanks again for listening. Catch you all next week.